We are having an extended period of extraordinarily good weather here in the UK, at least in the north of the UK. So we're out early this morning. It's nice and early. We've only met one couple so far, had a quick chat with them. And we're now walking down the side of a reservoir, a different reservoir than we usually do, but just as beautiful. There's woodland at the other side. I can just about make out, I think I can make out a slight green tone at the top of the branches. So does that herald foliage coming out? I hope it does. We're in March now. I'm hoping by April everything is blossoming and blooming and beautiful. And the sky is blue this morning. There's not a cloud. I look up, there's not a cloud. The temperature, it's mild. It's pleasant. It's just right for walking out in the countryside. The sun is warm enough that you can feel a little bit of warmth on your back, but it's cool enough to retain the smells. The heat hasn't deadened the smells, so I can smell the morning. We can smell the water around us. We can smell the moss on the dry stone walls. We can smell the ivy that's growing along the ground and over the walls around us. We can smell the lichen on the branches of the trees. We can smell tarmac on the road. We can smell spring in the air. We can smell life. We can smell life. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Molly's behind us. She's taken her time this morning because there's so much to smell, because she loves this kind of temperature. It's kind of cool. She doesn't like the heat. That's one reason I keep her cut short. She doesn't like the heat. She likes it cool. This is absolutely perfect for her, because when it's really cold, she still likes running about. The trouble is, as soon as she stops, she gets cold and starts shivering. But in temperatures like this, it's absolutely perfect. We're going to have a beautiful, beautiful morning, and I wish you could all be here to experience the beauty of the northwest of England. We're only a small island, and we get a lot of grief off people saying our food is rubbish when it isn't, saying our people are rubbish when they aren't. Well, everybody, to a man, woman, child and other, says, there's something quite nice about the British countryside. The hills, the castles, the little tiny roads, and people complain. They have these tiny roads. Why haven't they got great big highways? Because these tiny roads, and many of them, date from Neolithic footpaths. It's history. We're walking on history. It's a beautiful, beautiful historic country. I am so full of it this morning. It's a wonder I don't just explode with goodwill for my fellow man. It's one of those mornings. You ever had one of those mornings when you just get up and you just feel you just want to be good, you want to be nice to everybody, you want to enjoy the day, you want to enjoy every moment. Oh, I can hear a woodpecker in a tree at the side of us. Where's the woodpecker? I can hear it. Let's see if we can hear it. No. Oh. There you go. I knew we'd hear it. No cows in the field this morning. Oh. What should we chat about today, people? There you are. Nice to see you. Can you hear the woodpecker hammering away in the trees? The thing is with woodpeckers, you can never see them. You can hear them, you never see them. And sometimes, well, hardly ever, sometimes I can stand and I will stand and I will stand for hours on end, and then eventually you see it. But no, we've not time to stand for hours on end today because we've got things to talk about. Right, I've noticed, and I don't know whether other people notice this, that I actually spend less in decent weather. I've not been to the supermarket this week. I've just been using what I've got in the cupboards. It's almost as if spending is a diversion from inclement weather. I think when we sit and it's bad weather And the trouble with me, I'm unfortunate. In two ways I'm fortunate. In some ways I'm fortunate, in others I'm not, because I live fairly close to a town centre. I live literally less than a minute's walk from the shops. And it's so easy for me to just slip my Crocs on, grab a Co-op bag, beggar off round the corner and spend money on things I don't really need. Just because it's like I'm compensating for the bad weather. And as soon as we get good weather, it stops. I don't. I'm out in it. And apart from the fact that when I'm not out in it and I go home, I don't have that inclination to go out and spend. Do other people kind of get this? Do you understand where I'm coming from? That it's kind of the people all over the world. I've got people, my subscribers, who live in rural areas. So they have got the inconvenience of having to travel out to shop. So you probably go out with a very organised shopping list, get what you need for the week or the 2 weeks or the month or however often you go out to shop, and that's it. But I don't. I kind of sit there in the evening and then I'll think, no, I'll have a bottle of wine. And I don't really want a bottle of wine, but it's just like a reflex action, especially when the weather's not so good. It's compensating, and as soon as the sun comes out, it's as if something was missing and now it's there. So what we're doing when we shop, a lot of the time, we're replacing that something that's missing. The shopping we do is like a surrogate son. S-U-N rather than S-O-N, by the way. I try to keep myself busy. I think I mentioned this quite a lot in my podcast. If I'm not reading, editing YouTube videos, doing hobbies, knitting, music, anything. I like listening to podcasts. I particularly like listening to Neil Oliver. If anybody in the UK knows Neil Oliver, the course guy, I love listening to him. But sometimes I find myself with time on my hands and I find myself not doing anything. And those seem to be the moments when I decide to walk round to the Co-op and buy something. And the crazier the weather, the crazier the shop. I actually went out last week and bought a bar of chocolate. And I don't like chocolate. So that bar of chocolate is still in the kitchen. It's just like this compensating thing, shopping. So that's one of the disadvantages of living in the UK. When we get spells of weather like this, yeah, it's fantastic. I won't be spending. Like I say, I haven't been to the supermarket this week. I won't be going to the supermarket this week because I'm not in that mindset. Because I'm happy to be out here. And when I'm not out here, I'm happy to just be knowing that there is clement weather outside the window, outside the door, that is available to me anytime I want it. Like a medicine, like a drug. There doesn't seem to be much discouragement to spend, just encouragement. But I do think that if you come from a thrifty family, if you have thrifty parents, you might pick up those habits and become a thrifty human being yourself who passes on these thrifty traits to your thrifty children. But weather-wise and environment-wise, it means, I think, that people who live in countries or in areas with a more temperate climate, with nice weather, may tend to spend less or spend less on trivia than people who come from wet, rainy places where you're kind of compensating for that weather. And people who live in places that are remote will spend less because they will go out and spend only on the necessary things, the necessary weekly shop, because, you know, the alternative is to keep getting in your motor and driving through the snow or whatever to buy things, and you're not going to do that on a whim. And the people who live in beautiful places that have beautiful weather, rural places surrounded by beautiful countryside, by definition, are going to spend less on rubbish than the rest of us. Am I right? I mean, I don't know whether I'm right or not, but that's just my thinking. So I live in England, which for the most part is fairly grey. We're going through a spell of very, very nice weather at the moment, but for the most part, it's quite grey, and I don't mind that, because I don't mind that bit of wet, because it keeps everything green and pleasant, and it is a green and pleasant land. But the downside to that is, sometimes the weather outside, and the weather you know is outside, kind of, it's not depressing in as much as it's not really uplifting. It's not depressing, but in no way it's uplifting. So you tend to like find yourself twiddling your thumbs, and the next thing you know, you find yourself in the co-op buying a bottle of wine and a Mars bar. At least I do. And I don't even eat Mars bars. So all you people out there who live in lovely parts of the world with beautiful weather and beautiful surroundings, where it's a pain in the backside to get in the car or the four-wheel drive or on the bike or the helicopter or the plane or the camel or the horse or whatever, and go down to the corner shop 15 miles away to buy a bottle of wine and a Mars bar. I see this as geographical apartheid, and I'm demanding reparations from you lot out there who are saving all that cash, and I'm spending my pension on dog food and Mars bars and bottle of Shiraz. I demand reparations. I've not put a figure on it, but I am actually looking at something like £13 trillion to be paid into my bank account. How's about that then? How does that make you feel? Do you feel guilty now for living in a nice country? Because you should do. Because I'm suffering here in this grim landscape of holly and trees and rolling fields and green grass and the sun in the sky, and the sky is blue and the sky is full of birds, and my heart is full of happiness just to be out here. The sheep, there's a load of sheep in the field over there, all sitting down in the sun early. They're going to have a day basking in the sun. It's like being at Tenerife and getting up early, getting by the pool, lying there all day, drinking, getting into fights with German tourists. Life is wonderful. Life is a patchwork. We can't all live in beautiful countries. Well, I live in a beautiful country, but we can't all live in beautiful temperatures, predictable temperatures. But the upshot of that is, I don't really want to live with predictable temperatures. I'm actually quite happy to wake up every morning and the first thing I do is look at the weather app on my phone to see what it's going to be doing today, to decide on what I'm going to wear, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. Every single day is unique. Every single day is different. So really, thinking about it, shouldn't I be paying you reparations because I live in such a beautiful country? 13 trillion, whatever your currency, will be winging its way into your bank account post haste. And in the meantime, Molly and I shall just wander and wander at will. Because we're both old, we're both retired, we can both do what the heck we want. This is just, look at this. Oh, it's just absolutely stunning. We are so lucky to have this on our doorstep and actually know these places where there are so few people. We've met a couple of people today, but not many, and that's the way we like it. But the people we've met have been very pleasant, and we've passed a couple of minutes basically telling each other how beautiful the weather is, how beautiful the countryside is, how lucky we are to live here, how lucky we are to be alive. How's about that then? We shall see you on the flip. Peace and love.